I'm gonna be on in a second. I just need to go get some water while I see if anybody shows up, and then I will start. All right. Well, we'll get started in just a second. As soon as I actually get to sit down a second. All right. This is the RPG Crawler with another quick look at Pay What You Want and free role-playing games. I really should have done this like a month ago, but my schedule has not really been helpful with that. Furthermore, gotta be honest, it's not really helpful today, but I'm not letting it go any longer, so we shall see what we have tonight. Okay, what do I got here? I've got a collection of... Let's see how many I have. Wow, this is quite a number of them. I'm not going to get to all of these tonight by any stretch. of 5th edition, OSR, and other role-playing games and game accessories that are available on DriveThruRPG, either as a pay-what-you-want offering or as a free offering. As always, I will go ahead and basically just breeze through them unless I get really involved, like sometimes happens, and give my initial impressions and thoughts on it. If it looks like it's a rather long sort of product, then I'm probably not going to go through the whole thing. I'll probably just breeze through it. Some of these I really should have touched on, months ago. It usually only takes me about a month to go ahead and put these things together. This time has been a little longer simply because, as I said, scheduling. So we will start with Escape from the Lost Grave. It is from Doppelganger Publishing. It is available as a pay-what-you-want offering, and I will put a link in the chat. It looks like it is a very short, like 5-page, 5th edition product that is based off of, it looks like a point-and-click game of the 80s, but is a role-playing game. So let's just take a look real quick. When crossing the forest, you fell into a pit trap dug by highwaymen. Seeing an opening dug in the rock, you decide to try your luck in this underground tunnel. Okay, whatever. Go to the entrance room and try to find the exit alive. Your goal is to reach the exit of the dungeon alive. To advance, you'll have to solve puzzles by combining keys with locks. Add the numbers of one or more keys with the number of the lock and refer to the relevant graph in the riddles section. Okay. Some character classes will even allow you to force the puzzle. So it's basically a puzzle, like an escape room style dungeon based on old school point and click stuff. Okay, so I got this. It was listed as a 5th edition thing. Yeah, it's listed as D&D OGL, 5th edition compatible. And I guess it is, but right off the bat, I'm seeing that it uses... Okay, you can play it with the rules of 5th edition or use the minimalist rule set below. The minimalist rule set, dangerous situations resolved to D20 plus relevant attribute. Result versus a DC. You attack with D20 plus attack. If successful, you reduce the hit points by 1. Defense is D20 plus armor versus DC. So it's a single side roll only system. Basic attributes are attack, dexterity for saving throws versus traps, armor, intelligence for magic, hit points, and MP. With classes of warrior, thief, wizard. This is very basic stuff. Now that having been said, I'm going to take a moment to look at this. Because even though this is incredibly basic, because these are basically first levels of one class with no advancement, and yet it still has like an applicable difference between classes, and I like that for what's basically a 1-page rule set. Although I say first level because your warrior is first level, your thief is basically first level, and then your magic user or your wizard can cast fireball. So I don't know, go figure. All right, well, onward. You've got, does it tell how the rooms stick together? I mean, I guess it does. It doesn't have an overall map. So this goes to 2, this goes to 5, and 5 is down here, and that's directly to the exit. Okay. 3 statues of the angels with closed eyes decorate the room. One of them holds a stone chest decorated with sacred symbols in her hands. The way to room 5 is blocked by a large pit, which, if you have a high enough jump, you could get to level 5, or you could get directly to the exit, or you could use that levitation scroll to get past it. There's a skeleton there for those who like to fight. If you can't go to 5 direct, you go to 2. Gives you a statue with a fountain. Heavy iron gate blocks the access to room 3, which is a dead end down here. Sitting at the back of the room, a white zombie keeps a set of iron keys and is waiting patiently. So you've got a random danger in the room, a zombie this time. False jail is number 3. if you somehow... supposed to match the keys. So to get to 2, you need key 2. To get past 4, the scroll of levitation is a key item. It's not actually a key. So 4 deals with lock number 4. Lock number 4 is not listed. But in room number 4, you have crucifix key 5, which is useful to get past... past what? These don't add up. Add the numbers of 1 or more keys with the number of the lock and refer to the relevant... oh, because it's a riddle. Ah, this is so counterintuitive. That having been said, it's a very simple dungeon. I could see running it either in the 5th edition one or the native thing. And it needs a better like key for the keys and challenges. So let's take that as you will. I don't know. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's incredibly basic. Let's see what it is on the Drive-Thru RPG. It's listed as a 3-star product with 1 rating. You know what? I'm not going to argue with that. It's a good attempt. It's a mini dungeon. It'll keep people occupied for about half an hour to 45 minutes. I've seen better minimal dungeons. Let's go to the next one, shall we? The next one is The Lost Fortress of Galvin. Let me check. I gotta make sure it's still pay what you want, because sometimes I go in here and they're not pay what you want anymore. This is still in the 5th edition zone. Lost Fortress of Galvin. And we'll go ahead and get the 1 page. Again, no title screen. Lost Fortress of Galvin. I will put a link in there. It is from the Adventure Board. Looks like it's 8 pages. In the Lost Fortress of Galvin, the party is hired by a local lord to retake his castle from the band of monstrous raiders led by a minotaur named Sharasa, who has captured it last winter. They'll be approached by one of the Lord's servants with an invitation to dinner. Well, he'll go ahead and give you the quest and negotiate a reward. Okay, so then you basically go on. All right. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, adventure overview just goes over what I just said. This is a straightforward adventure suitable for low-level party and a good opportunity for them to ingratiate themselves with local nobles. I like that. Simple, to the point. My OBS studio is stopping and starting again. As if I didn't need any more trouble for this stream. Oh well. So let's take a look. I'm going to take a look at the overview real quick. It's 8 pages, but only like 5 of them are valid. You've got a very simple keep here. Looks like it's got, what, like 9 major sections, several of which have smaller subsections. Basically, the idea is to infiltrate the keep and recapture it. So let's take a look. It's an inland fortress a few miles north of the town of Crossing. For hundreds of years, it has been a tax stop for logging vessels moving south along the Mistwater River. So it gives you a background, although the background seems general enough that you could plug it in basically anywhere. So there is that. Let me go ahead and take a look at the first. We've got the adventure hooks to get people involved. I like that. Even as simple an adventure as it is, the adventure hooks are present, and it looks like they're generic enough that they can be used in a variety of parties. And what I need to do my adventure design series. Not that I'm some sort of adventure design guru or whatever, but I think it would be useful for me to maybe get my tabletops and taverns thing started off with another, like, design a basic adventure set. And I've talked about it before. I need to just do it. I just need to go in like tomorrow after I've prepped my weekend stuff and just sit down and just start recording and see what goes from there. Not even going to script it except for basic notes. But adventure hooks are always useful, even in the most basic of adventures. And this mic is probably picking up all kinds of crackling right now because I'm shifting stuff away on my desk right now. All right. But yeah, it's got a job listings because you can't rely on the heroes, the quote-unquote party being heroes every time. So you got to give them some financial things. Have them approach the tavern for the job. Have them follow up on rumors about town. It's all very basic stuff. And it gives 3 opportunities for characters to get involved. There's the basic estate. This is just for the intro. This is just so that when you introduce the noble, you can be more than just like, hey, you meet the noble at their estate. Knock on the door. Del and Clen will greet them through the small hatch set in the gate. Who is the person that he sent on one of the adventure hooks. Sir Edric greets them. Gives you the lavish hallway. Comes in. Sir Edric is ready to see the party immediately, but he waits to let them stew for a while just because he can. Keep getting disconnected on OBS. I'm going to be incredibly angry. I'm going to be really angry if it keeps disconnecting me. All I'm asking to encounter, because it's scripted, of 1 goblin and 1 warg on the road. Let me take it. Look at the stream health. Stream health says I'm okay. Who knows? So as you're making their way along the road, the party is likely to be observed by Vaz, a named goblin, who comes on a warg. But he doesn't attack the party. He moves to warn the rest of the band, so the party has to either shoot him down as he runs or be sneaking up on him and bump into him. So they can avoid alerting the fortress if they take the goblin out. That's nice. Get the fortress itself. Gatehouse has 3 goblins. That's suitable for a low-level party. You got rules for getting up into the... Here's the issue, though. 2 of the towers form the gatehouse, and I believe the goblins are on top, right? Yeah, the goblins are in the tower, so they've got cover while they shoot the party. That's nice. And so they shoot a little bit, then they duck away. It's actually a good tactic there. I mean, it's basic, but it's good to introduce. Gotta remember, this is like an intro adventure for like a low-level party. So immediately giving the concept of shooting from behind cover to a party will increase the idea that they will use it themselves for an introductory party. Alright, then you get the walls themselves. Basic combat. 2 goblins and a hobgoblin. I'm assuming that if these goblins, like, run away and manage not to catch the group in a pit trap, that you then add the goblins on the walls to them. It's not that many goblins in there. Like, overall, I'm seeing like 3, 4, 5, and a hobgoblin, one plus a warg if that one ran off. So it can be a running combat and just like start accruing goblins like a snowball rolling down. OBS, stop it. The hell is going on with... Oh my god. My connection's just like all spotty right now. Hold on a second. I gotta do something real quick. Alright. Let's see if that helped it. I don't think it did, but it may have. And people wonder why I don't stream. Courtyard has a single goblin in it. Sorry. What does this one goblin do? A single goblin stands guard outside. If the party encounters the guard on his own and no aid seems forthcoming, the goblin will attempt to smash the padlock and release the prisoner kept in the stables, which is an Eder cap. But here's the thing. It's got an AC of 10 and 7 hit points. That goblin is going to have to roll really, really high on the damage in order to smash that. Because goblins are what? Hell, let me take a look. Goblins do what, like 1d6 plus 2? In 5th edition? It's been so long since I've played low-level 5th edition. And at least by the book low-level 5th edition, because I'm not a big fan of 5th edition anymore. Let me take a look at this. The 5th edition. Where's my monster manual? And then to Goblin. I mean, I should just like flit on through, but now I'm curious. Goblin does 1d6 plus 2. 1d6 plus 2 slashing. So on average, he'll have to hit it twice to take that door down. One goblin, even against a first level party, is not going to last 2 rounds, most likely. Yeah, he would... Well, wait a minute. This is the map, right? So... Now, this is just getting silly. It's possible... It's possible that the PCs take more than a round to get to him. And then attack. And he manages to do it before, you know, they take him out. I'm spending too much time on overanalyzing this. Let's assume they get into the armory. It's number 5 over here, right? Stables were down there. That's where the Eder cap is. 5 is the armory. And it includes... It's a way for them to equip themselves up. It's got any simpler martial weapon. Got bear traps the party can use in case they aren't really overwhelming these parties again. Got a stash of what looks like healing potions. Oh, okay. So it's got an empty stash of healing potions. That's funny. Get the party's hopes up. They have to deal with a trap, and then they bust in, and then somebody's already taken the treasure. I love that. Then the keep is all just like one thing. Is this like the second level of the keep over here? Yeah, that's the second floor of the keep. Even though it's over there on the map, this actually goes up there. Okay. Doesn't look like there's any creatures in the keep itself. Yeah, there's no creatures in the keep itself. There's a fair amount of treasure. You know what? Oh, wait. A goblin holding the door will move to the loop fire. But here it is that there's no goblins listed as in this particular keep. So it's assuming, I guess, that all of the goblins from outside run back into the castle. And then we go to the Minotaur at the end, who is the leader. And she's off in the tower. So it's a very straightforward raid to keep, kill things, and overtake it. I think it's except for like 2 instances in here, you really, really have to use tactics on this to make this any sort of threat against any sort of reasonable first level party. All the way up to the Minotaur at the end. The Minotaur might do them in, but that's like literally like 90% of the threat in this entire adventure of this Minotaur. It looks like they tried to, and here's the thing, against a first, this would be a good adventure to run for and it's a level 2 adventure. Oh my god. Yeah, let's just say that I'm not impressed with the challenge level on it. I think it's well written. I think it's nice and basic, and I love the plot layout and stuff for a very basic introductory adventure, but it's not even listed as an introductory adventure like I thought. So, I don't know. Seems kind of weak sauce, but aside from that, it's a decent one. That's the Lost Fortress of Galvain. Let's go to the next one before I get too wrapped up and stuff. We'll go with Flapjack McGee's Grimoire of Cheap Tricks. Let me see if it's still pay what you want. This is indeed still pay what you want. It is from Joseph Shelton. It's a 12-page PDF containing spells, feats, and magic items for a trickster character for 5th edition. So let's go ahead and pop that one open real quick. Flapjack McGee's. Oh my god, here we go. It's like I almost never use this. Grimoire of Cheap Tricks. The link will be in the chat. One moment. Put the link in the chat for those interested. It is a pay-what-you-want product. It's got spells, magic items, and feats. Confusing your enemies can be effective as any sword, whether you're playing a malicious prankster, a crafty thief, or a wise fool. Trickery is a powerful and fun way to achieve one's goals, and one which I wish more players would do in my stuff. But it's like, so far I'm getting a couple of people that play trickster characters, quote unquote, but that they're not super good at actually doing tricks. So it just devolves into like a roll. Oh, well, I want to trick the guy. Make a deception roll. But I'm like, well, how do you want to trick him? Well, I want to trick him. So if they give me details, they'll get bonuses on their rolls, but they rarely do. Spells range from sneaky illusions, beguiling enchantments, to cheap shots and low blows. Let's look at the spells. Cantrips. Beguiling Veneer. Once before the spell ends, you can roll a d4 to add the number rolled to one charisma ability check of its choice. Isn't there a spell that already does almost the same thing? I guess it's similar to Guidance, but only for charisma things, which tells you why it's a enchantment cantrip. Bard, Warlock, and Wizard. Raven's Voice. That is, during the duration, one can mimic sounds you've heard. So you become a Kenku, basically. Or at least old school Kenku. I hear they fixed that now. Because we can't have any idiosyncratic characters. Everybody has to be the same character now. Can you tell I'm really over 5th edition? And I gotta do a review of 5th edition for my continue my my D&D retrospective series. So I've gone up to 4th edition, and I'm waiting for the 5th edition product cycle to finish through. Oh man, I have so much to say on 5th edition. Actually, I'm going to be fair because I will admit that I liked it when it first came out, but it wore out its welcome fast for me. Alright, anyway, on to olfactomancy. Oh, you can create a smell of your choosing in a 10-foot radius sphere. So it's like it's like, what is it? The ghost sound thing, except with smells instead of sound. That's actually really neat. I'm not so sure about the icon here, but the olfactory illusion is actually really neat. That's a good idea. I might have to use something like that. Conjure banana peel, just so you can be like in a slapstick comedy. Served. You attempt to compel a creature into a dance-off. So you basically compel people into a dancing duel. Okay, it's cute. Whatever. Brian's bruised eggplant. You bruise the manhood of a creature within range. Okay, this is just getting childish. Eros. You attempt to charm a humanoid you can see within range. It must make a wisdom saving throw and does so with advantage if you're fighting it. If it fails the saving throw, it is charmed by another humanoid that you can see within range until the spell ends. It's basically a love spell. I don't know, it's okay. Irritable bowel. Oh, see, this is just getting... I mean... You invoke both abdominal pain and constipation upon a 10-foot radius sphere. The hell, man? I mean, I guess it fits the trickster stuff. Mimic form. You transform yourself into an animate object of your approximate size and weight. So you become a prop. So you can play prop hunt, basically. Real fake doors. You transmute a 3-foot by 8-foot section of stone, wood, or metal into a hinged door with a knob. The door can be opened from the other side if it's 5 foot thick or less. Otherwise, it just looks like a door. I mean, alright. I think I could see where a lot of these could come in useful. But some of these are really way more useful than others. I'm not even talking about useful. They're way just better designed than others. Instant celebrity. One humanoid within range that you can see. All humanoids of your choice must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become charmed by that target. Okay. Magic items. Thank God I'm through those spells there. Wand of Dealing. This one has 3 charges. When holding it, you can use an action to expend one of its charges and target a human you see within 30 foot. The foul stench of flatus surrounds the target. Jesus. Alright. It's a wand of stank. Bag of Sand. A bag of sand has 3 charges as a reaction. When an enemy within 5 feet of you makes an attack, you must spend 1 charge to pull a handful of sand from the bag and throw it at the creature's face. Why can't you just throw, like, ordinary sand? Oh, it's because it refills at each dawn. That is kind of useful, except you could just carry a bag and throw sand in their face. Is this supposed to be Dale Gribble or somebody like that? Staff of Trickery. It's basically improves illusions and lets you make deception checks and turn invisible and teleport. Okay. Master of Misdirection. Increases dex by 1, max 20. Gives you proficiency in sleight of hand. Or double proficiency in sleight of hand, which could be useful for a non-rogue. Number of times equal to half your proficiency. You may cast a spell without any somatic or verbal components. That could be useful. Especially for misdirecting where the spell's coming from. Mischievous Soul. Increase your mental stat, one of your mental stats by 1. You learn the Silence spell and 1 first level spell of your choice from the Illusion or Enchantment schools. Okay. I want to say that's fair. Flapjack McGee's Grimoire cheap tricks. Like, it's really mixed. It's really mixed. But there's some useful stuff in there. Again, if you end up using these as your table, feel free to throw the author a buck or so if you end up using it a lot. I got 2 more 5th edition things, and I think one of them is going to be one I just scanned through real quick. So let's deal with the next one in line, which is going to be Tactical Combat, which is a 5th edition. It's got 21 pages. I expect about 18 or so would be useful. Tactical actions that work similarly to legendary actions, except they're designed for a group of creatures instead of one big bad guy. I will put the link in the chat momentarily. Tactical combat. And let's take a look. I like the cover art, by the way. Mostly because, like, in this adventuring group, all 3 of your front rank are using pole arms. I love it. I love it. Okay, we'll take a look at that. Alright, so tactical rules in brief. Tactical units function like legendary creatures, except with abilities available to the group as a whole. So you know what this sounds like? This sounds like teamwork feats from Pathfinder 1st edition. And we will see if anything in here resembles those feats. So you get the unit as a whole has a pool of tactical points are consumed. But this is already getting way more complex than 5th edition really merits. But you get tactical points are consumed when a member of the unit uses a tactical action or when the group as a whole uses a unit action or a continual ability. The unit regains its spent tactical points at the start of the round. It can forego using them and it can't use them while incapacitated or otherwise unable to take action. Only one tactical action or reaction can be taken during or after a given creature's turn. When a creature uses a tactical action or reaction, its reaction for that round is used up along with the tactical points consumed. Tactical actions must be taken at the end of another creature's turn, just like legendary actions. So it's basically legendary actions split amongst a group and then doled out according to how many points they have. Unit action can be taken by the tactical unit as a whole, and can be taken at the end of another creature's turn, during the turn any member of that unit, or at a time indicated by the ability. Continual abilities consume tactical points each round. They start initiative count 20, and if they are not reactivated, end on initiative count 20 of the following round. Sometimes a unit is so bad at working together that its members are worse off than they would be alone, earning a tactical penalty. Tactical penalties do not use tactical points or reactions and do not... Yeah, as I said, sounds really complicated. Yeah, this is like... If this was a supplement for Pathfinder or 3.5, right? If it was a supplement for the 3.x series, then this would be par for the course. But for 5th edition, it's really... it's like, it's not hard to understand, but for 5th edition or 4th edition maybe. See what I'm saying? Any of those. But for 5th edition, because 5th edition kind of wanted to dumb things down and kind of wanted to go more towards like the old school thing, except of course they failed miserably, but that's a discussion for another time. It's just too complex for the 5th edition overall design, I withhold my judgment on the supplement as a whole. Once I get through the rules, I'm just going to browse through the tactical abilities real quick. But yeah, if it was streamlined, it might be good, And it might be good for 5th edition, or if it was used for 4th edition, 3.x, whatever. See what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm getting at. So sometimes unit is so bad at working together, its members are worse off. Tactical penalties are just automatic. They should be supplied the first time they come up each round. Okay. So this is, I mean, I get the idea. They want to make some groups of monsters work really well together, and then this is just for some groups of monsters that don't work well together. So if you're playing like a let's just say a group of kobolds that can't work together for the life of them as kind of comic relief, then you could apply tactical penalties to that unit because they get into each other's way and such or whatever. But if you play another group of kobolds that are trained as a unit, then you'd use the unit actions and the continual abilities for them. When it becomes too small or too fractured to stay organized, it loses access to tactical abilities. If a unit has only one member remaining, it loses access to any unit actions. If members of the unit are incapacitated or physically divided, then they cannot count towards the size of the unit. Some abilities reference the tactical center of a unit. Again, this is way too complex for 5th edition. This is a somewhat ambiguous term that approximates where the actual unit is, being considered just one thing and not several creatures. As an example for why this is no surprise, consider a group of frost mephits generating a cloud around the tactical center. If 4 stay in combat while 1 is affected by a fear spell and runs away, the blizzard will not slowly drift off center. It'll stick with a 4, basically. Okay. This is just adjusting the CR based on it. Gives you an example of designing tactical encounters. Yeah, you've got to design each one for each individual encounter. So, again, I can see where this is coming from. And I appreciate where it's coming from. But look, this is like 4 pages in. You know, there's... Okay. let me get my words back into my mouth here. Name another 5th edition rule that's not like a character creation rule that goes on for 3 pages, you know? Like, even the combat rules, I don't think go on this. Like, the basic combat rules. Yeah. It's like even the basic combat rules. So let's take a look at the kind of abilities that are in this. Okay, Barrage. Costs 2 tactical points. Can be used once every 3 rounds, or recharges on a 5, which I believe is just a D6 roll, see? Tactical unit begins sending rapid wild shots at the enemies. A single range attack is made at every enemy within unit's normal range from its tactical center. Not targeting more targets than there are members of the tactical unit. These attacks are at disadvantage using attack and damage bonuses of the most common member of the tactical unit. So they just wild shots. I believe there's I don't know. Brace weapon. It can use the ability to make an attack of opportunity an advantage. Instead of granting advantage, this attack of opportunity can be made as normal but automatically considered a critical hit if it lands. So basically, this is your set charge maneuver. Set spears versus charge maneuver. Blight gives like a stench ability with poison damage. Distraction. A targeted creature within reach must make a wisdom saving throw. If they fail, all attacks against them and against the member of the tactical unit using this action are granted advantage this round. So you're basically distracting one of them. Some of these are okay. Like individually, I'm just scanning these real quick. Focus fire. All attacks by members of the unit against one target in sight are at advantage this round because they focus fire on one person. Like individually, these abilities are actually really good. I could see them working in a game, but the rule set that imposes them on 5th edition, it needs to be streamlined. It just needs to be streamlined. And I'm not even saying that as somebody that doesn't understand it. I'm saying that just to fit in with the rest of the 5th edition stuff. I have a similar issue with... I use... And I hate to admit this because I hate legendary games, but I used some legendary games rules in some of my my 5th edition games. The one that I'm still running. And they took a lot of their material from Pathfinder, and you can tell, like you can tell the complexity of the rule set compared to 5th edition, and it just kind of breaks immersion, you know? I will say this. For the tactical combat rules, and I'm going to wrap it up here. The individual abilities are nice. The rule set needs streamlining. I do appreciate the fact that it gives examples, but maybe you don't need that many examples if you made the rules a little bit simpler. It does give you some like basic encounter setups using the rules just to demonstrate, which I appreciate. And the art is just fantastic. I love the art on this. That reminds me of Skull Knight from Berserk. Yeah, the art is just fantastic for this. Who's the artist? Yeah, 4th edition, I got mixed feelings about 4th edition. It's like I didn't like it as a D&D game, but I loved it as a tactical combat game. I don't know if that makes sense, but like 4th edition, like looking back on it, and I recently looked back on it thinking that I might like to run something with it, because as I said, I'm over 5th edition. And I quickly decided that I didn't want to run another 4th edition game, but I would love to run like I would hate to run a 4th edition campaign, but I would love to run a 4th edition tactical dungeon crawl with like tactical combat. You know, yeah, you get me. You know where I'm coming from. All right, let's take a look at the last of the 5th edition offerings here. Let me see if it's still pay what you want. This is the Magic Knights supplement from Magic Knights project. It's 13 pages, so it's not as big as it feels, or it's not as big as I thought it was. You know, that wording is going to be terrible here, considering what this is. What this is. This is playing magical girls in 5th edition. Have you ever wanted to play a magical girl or Sentai-esque character in your favorite fantasy RPG? Well, yes, but wherever would I find one for swords and wizardry? But you wanted special, well-thought-out mechanics that make you feel like a character in Sailor Moon or Power Rangers that were also fairly balanced? So, like, I will admit, I will be upfront and admit that I am not a big fan. I don't know if this is clear, but I'm not a big fan of Sentai. Or the Sentai, not hentai. I'm gonna put my thoughts on hentai over there in a box somewhere. But on Sentai, which is like the Power Rangers kind of stuff, or magical girls, I'm not a big fan of those per se. But I'm not gonna say that I can't understand the appeal for some people. So you could make like a fighting team of magic knights that change into like, you know, the kind of like color-coded Power Ranger style things with these rules. The only magical girl anime / thing that I like is Madoka Magica, basically. But would I have them in my game? My current game, my only current 5th edition game, I mean, I theoretically have one for my patrons, right? But my patron 5th edition game is basically null right now, because one of the main people that I was running it for has decided that they don't, you know, that they don't like the tabletop that I'm using. So I'm kind of like wrapping that one up. I'm probably going to replace it with something else. My only 5th edition game right now is Berserk inspired. So no. No, magical girls would not fit in that. That having been said, that having been said, I could see myself running. Like, if someone put a gun to my head and said, run a 5th edition magical girl campaign, I could come up with one. But it would be like, it'd be more Madoka Magica and less Sailor Moon, you know what I'm saying? People would be getting their heads bit off. But yeah, well, let me see what this is. I'm gonna come up here and I'm gonna say that the art in this game. I hate to say it. Yeah, it's a wand. It's a wand to my head. But let me be straight up here. Let me be straight up here. I don't mind the art in this one. Like put the contents aside, the art's like solid. This isn't existing anime art, is it? No, this isn't existing manga art. This is like legitimate like custom art for this. And it's like decent. I mean, given what it is, it's decent. Channeling forth the energy from her soul crystal, a young girl named Verity cries out, "By the love that glows within me, heart unlike..." I can't even say this with a straight face. All right, let's take a look at this. All right, 20 level class. D10 hit points. Yeah, Shadowrun. Oh yeah, Shadowrun. Oh God. I'd love to. Man, I need to put together reviews of Shadowrun. I kind of put it on the back burner since Catalyst. What is it? Catalyst Labs had some issues a little while back, and I put all my I had a Shadowrun retrospective put together, which is funny because I've only ever played one thing of Shadowrun, but I own like a lot of the editions. And I was gonna put like a Shadowrun retrospective together. I need to get on that. Let's take a look. D10 hit points. Okay. Light and medium armor. All right. Simple martial weapons. Okay. No tool proficiency. Dexterity and wisdom. I'm not sure I get that, but they're basically a caster fighter hybrid. But with that D10 hit points, that's actually a bit generous. You start with equipment listed under Imaginite Transformation. So you only get equipment in your transformation. You don't get equipment for your basic character. At first level, you have struck a bargain with an otherworldly being known as the Herald. Imaginite must be of good or neutral alignment and can no longer gain levels if they willingly commit a blatantly evil act. Yeah, I love the video games on Shadowrun. Like I need to play them on. I'm gonna play some of them on my secondary channel at some point. I think because I've played through the first one, which is really like the first one of the new trilogy. I played the SNES one way back when, but it's been so long ago I can't remember it. I played 2nd edition Shadowrun. I love the world design for it. Yeah, I really do. And I've read through the more recent, like the 5th and the 5th edition, the 6th world stuff, and it's still like a really solid world. And the fiction of it is really good. Yeah. It's just so well put together. It's just so well put together. The Imaginite transformation provides the following benefits. You alter your appearance. You get your weapons as soul armaments. And you can adjust them over time. And then your academic focus. Because remember, you're a student when you're not out there changing into weird clothes and kicking alien monsters' butts. And it's basically like showing what kind of student you are. Starting at first level, a large portion of your soul is housed in a magical gem called a soul crystal. Upon your death, you cannot be resurrected or returned to existence except via a wish spell. Your body and its soul armaments dissipate. Your herald immediately turns your soul crystal into an artifact called the Shard of the Maginite and bestows it to a party member you're choosing. So this is a one and done class. Wow, that is a bold move. That's a bold move. Starting at second level, you can cast spells using a modifier determined by your chosen academic path, which tells you what stat to use. You cannot cast Maginite spells unless you're transformed into your Maginite form. And it's basically hybrid spell slots. The 4 styles of a Maginite. You got Ethereal Path, gives you beams, explosions, barriers. The Soul Path gives you healing and barriers. The Shaper gives you much the same, basically. There's very little variation in here. Like, the beam spells are all your ray spells. Explosion spells are your area of effects. Curing spells are just your heals. Restoration spells are similar. They're also heals. They got 2 paths in here that basically that can cure. Except one of them can cure multiples, and one of them is a more focused cure. Manipulation spells are just charm spells. Okay. Well, aside from the overlap in the curing and restoration spell group, I think these are actually not a bad way. I mean, you're not wrong. Could they just add this to the Warlock class? You're not wrong. This would not... I mean, mechanically it's very different. But I could see how they could implement this as a Warlock. Because I can tell you one thing. Like, I've played, like, Blade... what is it? The Pact of the Blade Warlocks and such. And they're very similar in that regard. And this is... Again, this is starting to get a little bit more complex than I'd expect for a 5th edition class. Like, this is getting a little bit more complex. Well, I take that back. I think this is of a similar complexity to Warlocks. And it does a very similar thing. This is basically Warlocks in a different style. And more combat focused. You do get the extra attacks from warrior classes. You get something that boosts your damage against weird tentacle creatures, because we don't want our Sentai becoming a hentai. I mean, it's not unbalanced, and it's a solid class, and it's not a bottom tier class. I will say this: I will give them credit here. This is not a bottom tier class, and it's not an unbalanced class. This I would put on the same tier as a Warlock, basically. Yeah, as a Warlock. Which is not a bad class to play. Making it like a... Keep in mind that when you die, you can't get rezzed. So you get like a shard of the Magic Knight that can be used by your party to boost themselves once. So it's like your last dying wish. Yeah, Warlock's pretty solid. So what do I think about this Maginite? I wouldn't use it in my games just because my games are thematically not appropriate for it. I could absolutely see myself running a game using Maginite. And I like the art, and I don't think it's a bad class. Yeah, one and done. And that would be cool, especially in a game like based on like Madoka Magica or something, where you've got like Like, genuine bad ends. Maybe I need to watch more Magic Girl stuff, but... Yeah, nah, never mind, I don't. Yeah. Yeah, or like a cartoonish kind of campaign. No, I'm actually... It's not for me. But it's not a bad... Yeah, it's not a bad product. I believe they've got... That was my last 5th edition one. I'm going to get into the OSR stuff in a moment. Okay, yeah, they've only got the Maginite supplement. I thought they had more products than that. I think they may be coming out with more. I'm not sure. But, yeah, that's not bad. Let me get into the OSR stuff now. I've got a lot of these, and I'm not going to get to any, like, all of these. How many OSR stuff? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things for the OSR. I am not going to get through all of them, and I know at least 2 of them are actually, like, entire new RPGs, so I'm only going to get to, like, what I can get. Yeah, Decker is pretty awesome. The only problem I have in tabletop with Decker is that if you start, like, if someone's playing a Decker in Shadowrun, and I haven't played, I will be up front. I've read through. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Yeah, choked. Hold on. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you do not eat a gummy bear while having a chat. Man, if I choked to death, if I had choked to death on stream, pardon me. All right. In the Matrix round, yeah, that's the thing about that. Is that, like, if there's, like, a mixed group, yeah, you have to really, you have to really design around it, you know what I'm saying? And I apologize for the coughing. I really do. But you have to plan around it, you know? God damn, man. Let me continue before I freaking die here. Alright. Yeah, I haven't played Deckers in the... I love the concept, and I feel like you kind of have to have them in a Shadowrun game in order to really appreciate the setting. But yeah, you really got to design around the decking encounters. I got to see how it operates in the 6th world, because my experience with, like, I haven't played Shadowrun since 2nd edition, even though I own, like, some of the newer versions. So what I need to do is really just sit down and like, go through. And you really, yeah. I'm like, oh my god. You need, or I need to, anyway, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, because playing the game, like the video game versus the tabletop game, really doesn't give you a clear indication of the Matrix rounds versus, like, the real rounds, you know? Alright, let's take a look at this. This is a full role-playing game, Storied Lands. As such, I am not going to do a real in-depth look at this because I need to not stream until like 3 in the morning. So I'm just going to take a real quick look at Storyland's old school fantasy role-playing game. Let me make sure it's still pay what you want. Okay. It is still pay what you want. It's an old school high fantasy role-playing game for 2+ people featuring monsters and magic with a heavy emphasis on dangerous dungeoneering. Designed to be easy, pick up and play, the 46 Storyland rulebook contains everything you need to get started and go on exciting adventures. Requires standard dice, etc. Here's the thing. This is an OSR game based on 5th edition. And I have seen this done before, and I'm going to put the link in the chat since it is a pay what you want thing. I've seen this done before with other editions, and depending on how it's done, it could be neat. And 5th edition does lend itself to being stripped down to the bare minimums. I will give it that. So let's see how this one goes. So it just tells you what dice you need. Strength, Dex, Con, Wiz, Charisma just uses the basic 6. Same progression, the same linear bonus progression that had been used since 3rd edition. Your basic DCs for tasks, very similar to 5th edition. No, actually, wait a minute. I think this uses the 3.x DC spread. Yeah. Okay, that's a bit of a surprise. Just noting down a note. Yeah, that uses like a more 3.x DC spread. That's not bad. I'm sorry, I gotta... Unless you want me to cough into the mic some more, give me a sec. Man, that sucks. Alright, let's see. Class from the classes chapter. First level and choose is just 3d6 in a 3d6 as you wish. Choose a species from the creatures chapter. Like I'm cool with that. Species as a creature or instead of race, I'm cool with using species. Yeah, I got this whole thing. Whenever I see an RPG, like I've said it before, but if you're ever curious, why I always like whenever I see an RPG that uses ancestries or heritage as instead of race, the reason I do that is because, and I've said it before, in an attempt to take the word race out of the games, they're using language that I, as an old Southern boy, mostly associate with a certain group of ignorant white hooded people that used to go on and on about their ancestry and heritage. So whenever I see one of these RPGs using ancestry or heritage instead of race, I'm just envisioning the designers, and it's not having the effect that they think that it is, because I'm just envisioning the designers putting on a white hood and burning a cross, because that's the kind of people that I remember using those terms most often. So when I see a thing like this and it says species instead of race, sure, that works. When I see origin instead of race, I prefer to use the term race when I'm talking like fantasy races, but I can understand species, origin, you know. But when I see all of these All these people going on about their ancestry and heritage. Uh, yeah, it's. I mean, am I wrong in thinking that? Like, whenever I read like these people on the West Coast going using those terms, I mean, look, I grew up. I grew up a poor mixed race because I half Hispanic in Texas in the 80s, and even then that shit was dying out. But I knew some people. Like I knew some people like that, man. They did not like me. Anyway, let me go on. This is actually pretty good so far. I like the idea that they're using species. I will put it there, using species. I like that. Characters across the land are trained in various skills and arts. Each class describes a different discipline. Bards are magical musicians, storytellers, and jesters who inspire their allies and trick their enemies. Okay, so Bard right out of the gate. Oh, wait. Oh, this is interesting. They only have 6 levels. 6 levels. Oh, wow. Alright, D6 for Bards. They use 2 first level at first, and then get them in higher levels. You get Bardic dice to spend and roll on any one of their Bard dice to inspire an ally. So inspiration. So it's just basically stripped down Bards. You know what's funny is that I like this stripped down Bards better than the Bards in the actual player's handbook. Like, I can't stand 5th edition Bards, but these Bards, I could like these Bards. Hell, these Bards are cool. Clerics, wisdom, strength as their primary abilities. 6 levels, again, they only have up to 4th level spells. That's old school right there, man. Total turn undead hit points. Instead of rolling for turns, you use a pool. Okay. Hey, that streamlines that. Okay, fighters just get an extra attack at 4th level. That's cool. Because it's a 6 level cap, so I can understand that. Fighter with a strength score of at least 16 receives a +2 bonus to AC while wearing armor that does not let them add their dexterity to the AC. So it basically gives them an armor bonus. And then finally, your magicians, which are your magic users. Basic old school magic users with cantrips. And then finally, the thief. Instead of getting like all the weird thief stuff from 5th edition, you just get a bonus to pick locks, disarm traps, and to sneak. They don't get sneak attack either, do they? Unless that sneak bonus is part of the later one. Yeah, Bards, man, in 5th edition. I mean, I'll be real here. The only editions that I've ever liked Bards in are 1st and 2nd edition. 3rd edition, they started to lose me a little bit. 4th edition Bards, the only thing I remember about 4th edition Bards was when somebody played a 4th edition Bard in one of my games and literally insulted the main character to death. And at that point, I was like, you know what? Fuck Bards. 5th edition Bard, I can see where they tried to make it more unique. But all I can say about 5th edition Bards is that they're marginally better than 4th edition Bards, but not by much. Yeah, but 2nd edition Bards, man, I love 2nd edition Bards. And I said I was going to go through this real quick. Yeah, too many subclasses in 5th edition that do that stuff. Like the entire bard class itself in 5th edition feels like it could be a subclass of another class. I don't know. I don't know if that's coming out right, but like the entire bard like theme in 5th edition feels like it should have been like a wizard or a sorcerer subclass. All right, on a character's turn, they can perform a single action and move. This is basically a streamlined 5th edition one. Yeah, they're the jack of all trades. They're not supposed to be like specialists, you know? So the entire idea of subclasses for bards kind of breaks, you know? You're not supposed to be a specialist bard. Types of damage, just enumerates the types. Simplified conditions from 5th edition. Let's see, death checks. You must succeed on a constitution check or die. So you don't get but one saving throw against death in this one. But it's got a better DC versus it. So the only thing I'm not sure about using a constitution check, well, I guess it's the same way in 5th edition, isn't it? Well, see, because this is an OSR thing, so giving them a death save at all, like giving them a death save at all is very kind for if you're dealing with an OSR thing. The only reason I'm not sure, because this uses like the 3-point-X thing with making it a constitution save. It's not a save, it's a check. But by tying it to constitution, it gives high constitution characters a much better chance of not dying. Which I guess follows. Like, I guess that makes sense. But at the same time, it's like, you know, it just gives people more incentive not to dump at constitution for any reason whatsoever. Spellcasting is just basic spellcasting. Yeah, I wish I could say more against this. Storied lands. But let me browse through it a little bit more. Take a look at the range on items. So there's no disadvantage and advantage, but they got a -5 penalty, which is mathematically the same thing. Simplified tables of gear. Here's your basic treasure. And then your creature index, which is just a list of your creatures. It's very simplified from 5th edition, but you can see it's 5th edition roots. And then you've got some deities for the setting in question. Spells are very much like 5th edition. They're very much like split between 5th edition and like 1st edition kind of layouts. Yeah, it's like it's like let's be real here, man. I play a lot of OSR stuff. And in those, like, unless your DM's really generous and offers negative hit points and stuff, once you hit 0, you're dead in those anyway, right? But, like, to give them a chance not to die, but then, you know, to tie it to a particular constitution save, it just further, it like, double incentivizes constitution, you know? Like, there's no reason to ever pick. Well, there is a reason to pick decks. A lot of times, let me see if I can't put this in a thought. And I'm sorry I'm so scattered tonight. It's just that I honestly didn't feel like streaming in the first place, but then I realized I was a month overdue on this. And then I almost choked to death on stream. But, yeah. There's always, like, a challenge when you're assigning stats. And it's not just 3d6 in a row. Between, like, dexterity and constitution. At least in, like, d20 based systems. So when you make, like, the pros for dexterity, aside from the saves, are that it reduces your ability It reduces the number of times that you're going to actually get hit, and it improves your initiative so that you can avoid, get out of the way in the first place, right? Okay, now my OBS is messing up again. So Constitution is usually seen as the lesser of those two choices because it only affects your hit points. So the systems like this, and this is not the only system that does it, 3.x did it, is that they tie the ability to not die to having a high Constitution as well, and it kind of puts a double impact on Constitution, but instead of putting a double impact by dividing the impact it has into two separate instances, it puts both Constitution effects in the same realm, which is basically to keep you from dying. So it is theoretically a good balance in order to counterbalance the selecting dexterity kind of thing, but not really, because dexterity gives you a more rounded set of bonuses rather than just doubling it all up onto just how not to die. Yeah, anyway, with all that said, here's your basic magic items. I'm not going to go into it in detail. I like this one. I don't see me using it, but if you want a stripped down version of 5th edition to play some OSR stuff at low level with, Storied Lands is not bad. It is not bad at all. Old school fantasy role-playing game, Storied Lands. Yeah, it's an OSR game using 5th edition as its core. And it's well written enough that you can blow through it even if you're not familiar with 5th edition. There's a few things in here that I feel like should have been explained better, like they could have put like a notation of sneaking up in the thief class or whatever. But aside from that, it's a solid little adaptation. I will give it that. That was Storied Lands. Let's go on before I spend all night talking about like one or two things. Let's take a look. What do I want to cover next? Let's go with Mired Temple of the Idiot God. Mired Temple of the Idiot God. This is a free one. So this one's completely free from Kormar Publishing. It's got an average rating of 4 stars. Let's see if it merits that. The Mired Temple of the Idiot God. And I will put the link in the chat for future reference. Okay. So let's take a look. It's just 9 pages, just an adventure. It's an OSR adventure, and it is. Let me take a look at the page. It is any system / system agnostic, also OSR systems, and OBS is giving me problems again. I don't know what's with my. If you wonder why I don't stream that often, I've got a relatively good connection, but it has a tendency to just blip constantly some nights. And there's no way of telling, when it's going to happen for me. Anyway, you'll see this a lot with OSR things. It's because they're so simple in terms of their layout, they often go with a system agnostic thing. The Temple of Septulus. Sometimes the deep recedes temporarily and reveals its secrets to the inlanders. On one such pitch of black scum near the coast, an adventurer will find a ruined temple. Its decorative columns are tangled with seaweed, and the roof is a mess of barnacles and fish detritus. Carved above the open entryway in the common tongue is the word Septulus. The walls surrounding the structure are carved with graffiti depicting headless men, flying spheres of light, and humans consorting with demons. Okay, OSR. OSR is old school Renaissance. I have a video on the old school Renaissance. OSR systems are basically based on they're not all based on BX, but they harken back. So Okay, so the OSR started with clones of AD&D, like first edition, D&D Basic and Expert, and they made playable clones of them. It has since expanded to a very large number of systems that either A, take those systems and modify them a little bit into a particular genre or niche, B, base themselves off of things other than those classic D&D versions. For instance, there's the Warlock system, which is more based off of the fighting fantasy style stuff from Britain, that sort of thing. There's the Fighting Fantasy Advanced itself, which can be considered OSR. There's Castles and Crusades, which basically attempts to duplicate AD&D first edition style stuff, but using a third edition underlying system, right? So the OSR is just a broad group of rules light, narrative focused, simplified systems made for quick play. So if you're thinking about like just basically if you're thinking AD&D first and second edition or your AD&D basic stuff, things that are generally compatible with that. If you have not played any OSR games, but you like the idea of the old systems, I do encourage you to check them out because a lot of them are available, if not completely free. They'll have like a version for free, especially the clones. Like I believe you can pick up Osric, which is a first edition clone, for free. But I used to cover more OSR stuff, and I just like it better than a lot of the modern things, just because it gives me more opportunity to customize a very simple set of rules to something of my liking. Yeah. So that's what the OSR is. And you'll find that it has a vast number of people that kind of support it through various things. Anyway, so sometimes you're going through this. So this is basically a temple dungeon crawl underwater. Oh, that map. Oh, I feel like I just got punched. Well, it's a map. It's, what is this, this is a 6-room dungeon. And you couldn't do I guess some people just can't draw. That's okay. That's alright. The foyer, ground littered with fish carcasses and mud, making it difficult to move. 3 statues, each labeled. See, this is a kind of format that an OSR system will tend to use. You're not. Some of them will have box text. Yeah, some of them will have box text, right? But a lot of OSR systems will simply have a list like this. And the reason being is because back in the old days when I'd be developing a dungeon, I'd jot down like the notations of the room. So then later when I was running it, I'd be like, okay. You step down the stairs into a room approximately 20 foot by 30 foot. A side corridor to your left branches off to a solid wooden door, while another wooden door lies in the wall right across from you. The ground is littered with fish carcasses and mud, making it difficult to move, while 3 statues dominate the room. The arched wood and iron doors have silver icons above the door, depicting believers violently baptizing an unwilling flock. What do you do? And then all of that other information would just let me give more detailed information based on the characters' descriptions. So you'd basically like ad-lib the description off the top of your head. And that's very common with OSR stuff. I, for one, prefer when they give at least like a bare paragraph of description. You know? But what that does is that lets you adapt. Because let's say somebody entered and they had a torch or something, and a torch in old school may only like illuminate like 20 foot clearly, so they may not even be able to see this far door. So you basically say this door extends for at least 20 foot. before tapering off into the darkness and you can't see what's beyond. So it basically encourages the DM to adapt the description to the situation at hand. Let's see. Let me take a look. I'm not going to go into this in detail. It's using like stock. It's not using even stock art. This looks like. Is this like public domain art? Yeah, this is public domain art. Yeah, this is just public domain art. The threats. You've got no actual combat in the first one, but you do have threats. Because some of this stuff... like the first few rooms encourage exploration. And then you don't actually have a combat threat. You don't have a combat threat all the way through until like the very end. But you do have a couple ways to get into the Chamber of the Afflicted. And this is where you finally got your threat, which is basically 4 animated undead that basically say very vile kind of things. Like they're possessed. Now it does look like they have some like non-enemy threats. The Scum of Septilis, it's basically almost like a trap. Yeah, it's almost like a trap. It can change the player. So up here where it says like in room number like 2, you get a flask with a curious black liquid inside. And one of the common ways to identify potions in OSR, and even in modern editions, was to take a sip of the potion. Well, guess what? If you take a sip of this, it turns part of your body into mouths that bite you. So you get like a mouth on your tongue that attempts to chew its way out of your mouth if you try to take a sip. That's messed up, man. And then the final thing is just a cleric. It's just a cleric that you fight. Except it's a ghoul cleric. I don't know. I am not impressed. The Mired Temple of the Idiot God. Oh, oh yeah, where it's nothing but bugs and slime and ways to just ruin their armor and their stats and inflict them with disease and poison. I love using that, but you can only ever get away with it once. You can only ever get away with it once if you want to play with the same group again. Oh God, I need to stat that out proper for like I need to publish a lot of this stuff. I need to like get like any dungeons published. I actually was thinking about doing some, like putting them together for like Drive-Thru RPG or whatever and putting them up. I'm gonna have to set some time aside to do that. I'll put the whole one. Oh yeah. Oh man, with disease, and the best thing to do is then to make you make the terrain an enemy too, so they're like all slipping and sliding. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man. But yeah, you can only really get away from that once. You know, it's odd. I was inspired to make that by World of Warcraft, of all things. Like, not recent World of Warcraft, but like back in the day. Back in the day with the what are they, the Silithids or whatever, the insect things. Oh yeah, you did it twice. Well, if it's with different groups or if you give them long enough, you can get away with it. But it's kind of one of those special things because otherwise you'll start losing your players. Oh, this is no longer a pay what you want offering. I was going to cover Warlock Joe's Dark Vegas Vacation, but they want $1 for it now, so it's not pay what you want anymore. Wah wah. All right, so that's why I got to check these because some of these they go up as pay what you want and then they stop being pay what you want after all. Oh, Tales of Adventure. Okay, this is one that I saw. Tales of Adventure, and I'm going to put the link up. Tales of Adventure is inspired by an old-school dungeon crawl video and computer games such as Adventure, Rogue, and Wizardry. And the reason I like this is because the cover art is literally reminds me of the Wizardry thing. So let's take a look at Tales of Adventure. It's one page. It's a one-page OSR thing. Please tell me I've got this. Please tell me. Where the hell is this? Oh, come on. Is it one-page RPG? Yeah, it is. Oh, you mean it's an entire freaking, like... This is just a one-page RPG. This isn't even an adventure. So this is a one-page RPG role-playing thing. What you do is you'd print it out, and it'd be like just a trifold pamphlet that you can stick in your pocket. Group must consist of at least 2 people. 6-sided dice 6 times to determine the 6 ability scores. No, 3 6-sided dice 6 times. Strength, Constitution, Intelligence, Strength, Constitution, Dexterity, Intelligence, Intuition instead of Wisdom, and Charisma. That's cool. And it uses the old school layout, which is more of a bell curve than a linear progression. I don't know if I've gone over this. I actually got some flack for like. Hold on. No, I don't want signatures. I want to be able to draw. Is there ability to draw? No, there's not an ability to sketch. Okay. But I actually got some flack for the way I refer to bonuses in my OSR stuff. Oh, you put one in a desert. Yeah, because that's more like the Silithid ruins. Or whatever they're called in World of Warcraft. Looks like a bug nest out in the middle of a desert. Was it? I can't even remember what it's called. It's been so long since I've played the game. But yeah, okay. So yeah, what was I going on? Yeah, the creating characters. I always make a distinction between OSR style bonuses and post 3.x bonuses. And I actually got some flack for it for a while, but when you look at it, this uses an OSR style bonus. It's more like a bell curve, where it goes from -3 to +3 rather than -4 to +4. And if you look, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, there's a huge spot in the middle that has no bonus. And then as you go towards the ends, it adjusts the numbers. And usually it adjusts it at a steeper rate than this. So it ends up being a bell curve, whereas if you graph the bonuses per ability in like 3.x and later, it's every 2, so it ends up being very linear, a linear progression rather than a bell curve progression. Anyway, back to this game. They're just borrowing the saving throws from modern editions. Warrior, like your classes are described in one line, which is sometimes all you need. They're very basic classes. They got races class here. So you got elf, dwarf, and goblin. Nice. Other stats include hit points and armor class. Levels and experience. Each gold piece is found is worth 1 experience. Each monster has an experience reward listed it. 1,000 raises the character level 2, and the cost doubles per level after that. So instead of having big long tables, they just give you the experience progression as an algorithm. That's cool. Additional hit dice and hits and saves are described as an algorithm. Again, that's really cool. Although it does level out because there's no maximum. So while the classes are very different at first, in terms of what they can do. They tend to even out over time. Combat's divided into rounds. D10 initiative. Lowest goes first. You've got your very basic armor. It's got ascending armor class. Weapon damage listed. Yeah, this is just a very simplified thing. Like, legitimately, the only good thing... There's two good things about Tales of Adventure. First is that the system itself is relatively comprehensive for a one-page RPG. And the second thing it's got going for it is the pixel art. And then that's about it. Like, I could take this and make an actual dungeon crawler in about 2 or 3 days. I could program a dungeon crawler from this in about 2 or 3 days. If I wanted a good one. I could probably get it done in a day if I wasn't doing anything else and you were okay with like absolute crap dungeon crawling. But I could make a roguelite from this, or like a first-person dungeon crawler from this in like 2 to 3 days. And it would be passable. People would play it. That's the only good thing that's about this. That having been said, I really like the thing right here that reminds me of Wizardry 1 so much. Anyway, moving onward. Moving onward. Oh my god, it's getting kind of late. And I still have so many of these to do. Let me take a look at the next one. Exploring the Unknown from Old School Role-Playing. I've actually covered several things from Old School Role-Playing in the past. And they're written by Joseph Moore. And they're actually usually pretty good. So I'm going to breeze through it real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. They're usually pretty bare bones. This one's for Osric. I'll put the link in the chat. And let's go ahead and take a look at what they're offering. Exploring the Unknown from Joseph Moore. Okay, it's following the same thing. Okay, Joseph Moore does things. I've seen things from old school role playing for Cepheus Engine and for OSR stuff, and they're usually decent. But they're usually pretty bare bones. So it's, yeah, cover page has dungeon stairs, and back cover is just public domain stuff. You got your game master notes. One of my favorite adventures is B1 in Search of the Unknown. I've started several campaigns with this adventure and run it conventions. The Keep is a small, low-level adventure. It is well suited for play. So this is basically paying homage to In Search of the Unknown. In Search of the Unknown was the Caverns of Cos Quentin one, not the Caves of Chaos one. So this is basically a keep in that same kind of thing. Do we have a map? He usually uses Dyson Logos maps, and I see it looks like a Dyson Logos map. So yeah, this is basically a stock dungeon from stocked Dyson Logos dungeon. At least I think it is. Is it? Is it? Let me take a look. Yeah, Dyson Logos. It's just there's a lot of people that do this. Is that they just pick up maps from Dyson Logos and then stock them and key them. And there's nothing wrong with that because they're good maps. But occasionally you see the same maps. All right, random encounters in the keep. Got 2 that are just sounds, just to spook the party out. Got collection of skeletons, collection of kobolds. These are both really good for low-level parties. Suitable challenge and everything. Same with the hobgoblins. The gray ooze. 1 gray ooze. Yeah, I'd use that for a first level party. You'll note that this is written in first edition style. The experience. So if you're not familiar with first edition experience routes, like you know how the modern editions have like a number of experience for a particular monster. In first edition, you had a base number of experience, and then they got additional experience for each hit point. So let's say it was a one-hit die monster. You'd roll a d8. So if that skeleton had like 6 hit points, it would be worth 26 experience. And if another skeleton in the same group had like 2 hit points, it would be worth 22 experience. And that's how they gave you additional experience for the justifiably more difficult monsters that had more hit points for their kind. And I actually don't mind that. I kind of like that. You got your rumor table with your true and false indication over here. And then you've got basic. You've got your basic descriptions. But another thing, I'm not going to go through this point by point because I see what's going on here. You'll note each one has a monsters and a treasure and location. Now, the Caverns of Cosquentin, which was B1, In Search of the Unknown, was designed to give a framework for a new dungeon master to learn how to stock the dungeon. So it didn't come pre-stocked. So this one does have some treasure written into the descriptions here. Like, there's things in the descriptions. 2 spears and a flail. Here one, this has a gem written in it. But in addition to that, you would like stock it yourself and put your own encounter in and your own treasure in. So this is taking a lot of cues from that. And then it gives you like a weird fountain to drink, which I believe was also in Caverns Cosquentin. I don't know. It's been several years since I covered it last. So yeah, this is very much attempting to do like the random dungeon stocking thing and let you stock your own dungeon. There's pluses and minuses to that. As a new DM, it gives you a practice and it gives you a sense of accomplishment when you do it, but it also doesn't give you any guidelines, right? So you end up with a very randomized dungeon, which can make for the ability to play it multiple times. So that's Exploring the Unknown from Old School Role Playing, Joseph Moore. It's written all right. I didn't look through it in detail, but I've read his stuff before, so I know it's written all right. Nothing spectacular, but it's written well. You know what? I am getting kind of tired. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this down and just do a couple more. I'm going to skip the rest of my OSR stuff. Actually, no, I'm going to take a look. Let's see how many. Let's see whether this is, first of all, still Pay What You Want. Okay, it is. I'll take a look at a system. Okay, it's only like 15 pages. That's cool. I will take a look at a system. And then I'll take a look at like a dungeon generator. And then I'm going to call it for the night. So this is Gallants and Gunfighters. It is a Pay What You Want product from Lucky Rat Press. And it is compatible with BX-derived OSR products. So things like Labyrinth Lord, Old School Essentials, that sort of thing. Here is the link. And this is supposed to be... Oh man, is that AI generated? So... That's got to be AI generated. Like no joke though, if I ever do... like if I do a published adventure, I'll probably be using AI art for it. And I know some people are going to hate that, but I've been playing around with it lately, and I can make some pretty spooky stuff. So, That, and it's more suitable for horror kind of things. Anyway, Wild West role-playing. This supplement is meant to assist players and GMs in creating and adventuring in a world very similar to the American West of the late 19th century. This version of Wild West can be populated by magical creatures such as goblins, orcs, dragons, and fae, although it need not be if a more grounded approach is desired. Guns ruled the day during this period, and additional rules for firearms and duels are described further below. Should be noted this supplement is meant to be used alongside other old-school role-playing projects and has purposely left content out for that reason. Those wishing to add more fantastical elements to the game would simply need to use the stats already described in another tome. So basically you play this on top of another system. There are 2 style notes that can be taken into account. First is using the rules as intended. Encounters involving gunfights will be significantly more deadly than those involving melee weapons. Yeah, no shit. It's because getting shot is a hell of a lot more dangerous than getting stabbed a lot of times. Well, it depends on what you're stabbed with, but you're more liable to take a couple shots from across a room than to, get a sword in your gut. Second, this supplement acknowledges that the American West was a deeply racist and misogynist locale. Unless useful to you and your group in some way, these elements should be kept to a minimum or outright removed to create a more inclusive space where everyone can feel comfortable. Okay. Sure, whatever. Yeah, it's basically like you can add this to it's an attempt to play the Weird West kind of. Oh, it doesn't even say Weird West. This is just like Wild West stuff, and you can make it Weird West by plopping it onto like Labyrinth Lord or something, or you could just play Deadlands, which I believe is Savage World now, isn't it? Tell me if I'm wrong, but Savage World does Deadlands. The Gunslinger. It's a D6 hit point class. No armor is any with no shields because, let's face it, if you're playing like a gunslinger in the Old West and you're busting out a shield, I don't know what's wrong with you. They're masters of all things firearms, known for their uncanny ability to hit their targets no matter the conditions. They are feared throughout the land. They can use any type of firearms as well as lassos and daggers. They can wear leather armor. Misfire Master. Gunslingers only misfire on a roll of 1, and their misfires are cleared automatically, which I'm assuming there's misfire rules in this one. Fan the Hammer. Using a revolver, gunslingers may fire multiple shots in a single round before the semi-auto, with a penalty of -2 per extra shot taken past the first. Quick Draw. If drawing and immediately firing a revolver, gunslingers always act first, even if surprised. In duels, this gunslinger gives an extra starting card. Does this use cards? Fuck systems that use cards. Fucking hate them. Man, I can't tell you the number of times I wanted to cover a system, and then I've seen that it uses cards, and I'm just like, fuck this, and just leave. I don't know. Maybe that's just on me. But I got enough to deal with dice and papers and pens without busting out a pack of cards. I think the only time I've used cards are when I was playing Shatter Zone and using the Taraka cards in Ravenloft. Now that I've finished bitching about cards for a good couple minutes straight, I will admit this. Using a poker deck, just a standard playing card deck, in an Old West setting, I can see that. Because you may have one at the table anyway if you're playing the Wild West, in order to, if there's a poker game in the game. So I could see that. But if this uses like custom cards, I don't know, man. Anytime a gunslinger wishes, they can build a stronghold and form a posse. Because the Wild West was full of people making posses for strongholds for some reason. I don't know. Yeah, it just uses D6s for hit points. So they're like a weak fighter, basically. But they've got guns, so there's that. Tracker. Trackers are the watchers of the frontiers, the wardens of the unexplored wilds. Only surprised on a 1, which is actually incredibly powerful. Well, actually, I don't know. Only surprised on a roll of 1 that halves their surprise chance. Maybe cuts it down to a third. Surprise in old school games is fucking brutal. Because if you're surprised in an old school game, you can do nothing for like 1 round. And if it's like certain old school games, you have chances to drop your weapons. Because you're surprised and you drop them. Or you can be surprised for multiple rounds in certain OSR games. So being surprised only on a 1 is actually like a lifesaver. They can use all types of weapons, but can only wear leather armor. Again, whoops. Yeah, Tracker is a ranger. Favored terrain. They get to forage and hunt, and they can use stealth in the wilderness. And they get an animal companion. Yeah, this Tracker is just a ranger for OSR systems. That having been said, like BX and Beckme and Labyrinth Lord, well, basic Labyrinth Lord, basic old school essentials, they don't have rangers. They've just got the classic 4 plus the demi-human races. So if you're using this on top of advanced Labyrinth Lord, the Tracker is just a weird ranger. But if you're using it on top of like just pure like old school essentials, then you're getting a class that does not exist in that system. So that's good. The Brawler. Oh, it's just a fist fighter that can also use weapons. They get unarmed damage plus 2, D8 hit points, which is the same hit points as a fighter in old school. They get a second wind, which can heal them. So they're basically monks that can use guns. Yeah, monks, except they can also use shotguns. Yeah. So yeah, basically, like if you were playing, oh god, what's that old show with Carradine or whatever in it, and he played like a wandering monk. You could play that. You could play that dude. And again, the monk is not in core BX systems, so this is not a bad substitute. Scoundrel is your thief, your rogue. Except instead of like, I will say this: you've got hear noise, move silently, open locks, and pickpockets, and those are appropriate. You don't have hide in shadows, but you do have disguise, which in an Old West thing, because you're going to be doing a lot of stuff like outside or in buildings on ranches and stuff, is going to be way more useful than hide in shadows. Because hide in shadows, you're not going to have a lot of opportunities for that in an Old West setting. But disguise is going to be so useful. So I like this Scoundrel class. Oh, and horsemanship too. So you can steal and ride horses. Okay, yeah. Yeah, the Scoundrel is like one of the better classes in here so far. The Huckster. There's no charisma-based classes in BX. There's no charisma-based classes in BX. So giving the Huckster its own class, you've got card tricks. You get a deck that contains 52 cards. And then you can, like, cheat at cards. And you can use a card drawn to produce effects. That's actually neat. There's basic like dynamite and stuff for adventuring gear. Got firearm stats. That gives you rules for like clubbing people with them, for pistol whipping things. They're all loud because they're all firearms. Yeah, this is Deadlands. I've never played Deadlands, although I have shilled Deadlands. I have like encouraged people to play it, but I've never played it myself. And I feel like that's bad of me. But at the same time, I hear nothing but good things about Deadlands. So, yeah. So there's basically your rules for your shotguns. They do way more damage than anything in BX does. And I'm imagining that you can use this with a sneak attack. So let's take a look at the duels. Okay. Oh, dual cards. Okay, this is where we learn about the cards. Each player is dealt one base card and a number of extra cards determined by the table X-2. Except these are not X-2. It says table X2, but it's table D1. Ah, editor, what the fuck, man? Yeah. You know, it's good for rule sets like that, you know, to play one campaign of it or one game of it just to see what it's like, you know. But it's referring to the wrong table. Oh my god, editor, this is bugging me. It's X3, but no. So wait. I'm not reading this out loud. I'm not reading this out loud. But it looks like the rules for the duels, rather than playing a combat, is you play poker. You play... Wait, no, you do have a 2-hit roll. No, you play poker. Okay, so you play poker. You play a hand of poker modified by your dex score. And if you're the gunslinger, you add a thing. So you play poker, one hand of poker, before actually then reverting to like your basic D20 plus a bonus. So for duels, this is for gunslinger duels, like Old West duels. They go out there into the hot sun and they stare down each other, and narratively they're staring each other down. But in terms of mechanics, you play a game of poker. I don't know how I feel about that. That's super gimmicky. But I honestly can't bitch that much about it. You know? Super gimmicky, but I can't complain that much. Yeah, see what I... See? See, that's what I was thinking when I was reading this. I see where they were going with this. Old West, you got to get a game of poker in there, right? But thank you, OBS, for disconnecting and reconnecting me. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I need to finish this up before... So this is the huckstery. This is purely for the huckster thing. This replaces like the spell casting. So I'm going to finish this up, and then I'm going to go on to my last thing for the night. Huckstery, this is for the huckster class. It replaces the spellcaster class. It lets you do like debuffs and buffs and special effects based on cards. So it gives like effects to each individual cards as a huckster. So you're basically a supernatural card player. All right. So what do I think about Gallants and Gunfighters? Well, it's got some interesting ideas. I have seen way better OSR standalone rules, but it's got some interesting ideas. Would I use them? No, but it's not bad. I see where they were going, but it's super gimmicky. All right, let's move on to the last thing before my computer decides to, like, shut down and then never come back. Yeah, just play Deadlands, man. Just play Deadlands or any of the other. Like, let me put it to you this way. I put Gallants and Gunfighters on the list since it's a pay-what-you-want product, right? But in the time since I put it on the list, I have seen like 6 or 7 different Old West OSR systems fully fleshed out come out on Drive-Thru RPG. And that's just in like a couple months. So there's no paucity for old school, Western stuff. There used to be. It used to be like a really rare thing, and now it's got like a whole bunch of stuff. All right, so the last thing I'm going to look at is Dungeon Generator. And I actually had two more things. And I am going to like open up two more files on this after I cover Dungeon Generator that are on my list, but they're too big for me to actually play through or to actually look through. So Dungeon Generator is a 4-page dungeon generator. It's got a looks like it's a what do you call it? A public domain art up front, I guess, maybe. It's like an etching or something. And this is just a set of tables. I thought it was a proper thing. So you just roll for the dungeon type, lets you know the construction type. Like these tables, like legitimately these tables, this is not bad for what it is. I thought it was going to be more in-depth than that. It even gives you monster stocking rules and stuff. But like all of these tables, I will admit it's not a free product, but the Tome of Adventure Design has these tables but better. So if you're absolutely hard up for generating the look and feel and appearance of a dungeon, these will kind of work. But you're probably better off using whatever dungeon generator comes with your preferred system. I thought I would be able to say more than that. I appreciate the effort it took to put them in there. And if you don't have a system with an integrated dungeon generator in it, this works. It's system neutral. It's not associated with anything, but it's really super simple, and I was expecting a little bit more. Okay, that was Dungeon Generator. Now I'm gonna head off in a little bit, but before I wrap up, I want to just open up and eyeball two last products that I had slated to look at. They are full-on rules, so I am not going to go through them completely, but they may be interesting to some people. And the first is Ragnarok, one-shot RPG Viking rules. It is based on the one-shot RPG system, which I believe has like its own thing. And this just uses quick play rules to play a Viking-based game. There's a zillion other Viking-based RPGs out there now. Some of them are very well done. This one, I will note, gives you a timeline of the Viking era or the Norse era, especially in terms of the conquest of Britain, from Aethelwulf's first landing all the way to the Battle of Hastings, all the way to William the Conqueror took control. The Battle of Hastings. But that's when Harold Hardrada died at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. And then it just gives you some basic ideas to roleplay a Saxon or a Norseman. I'm sure that there are way better RPGs out there for this, but this one is pay what you want. And then the final thing that I'm going to look at tonight, and I almost didn't, but every time something like this one comes up, I have to take a look at it. Because it's always done relatively poorly. I'm just going to let that title page sit there for a little bit. You know what? You know what, man? That's exactly what I said when I saw it on Drive RPG. Here's the link. It is a pay what you want. Now, what I'm about to say. I have not actually looked at this. It is 40 pages long. I have not actually looked through this more than a little bit. What I am about to say should be taken with the full knowledge that I am, in fact, actually a Christian. But by God, man, why do this? Oh, you gotta outreach. I understand, my man. You gotta spread the word. But sweet Jesus, don't make us look like this. Okay, hold on. Maybe it's not bad. Maybe it's not bad. Okay. Gives you basic notation of tabletop, character creation, uses strength, dexterity, intelligence, wisdom. It does not use charisma, so it uses 4 of the basic 6. And it uses... Apparently it uses scripture to generate things. Hold on. This is the precursor to actually playing. If you want to teach math without having to interrupt the play session, then this is where you do it. You may also notice that there is no option to play as another race. It's not because we've said it in the real world, but it's because you are man. You are in the image of God. Okay. Okay, that's cool. But I understand that. But what do you roll? The hell do you roll? It just gives you the explanation. So you roll 5d6 for each stat. So they wanted to get it away from the d20 rule set. I don't know, man. Well, it says... I don't know. Crusader. This class is good at fighting. Crusaders can dish out holy damage. You know what? Don't hate me for this. But I actually don't hate this. It is badly in need of better art and of better write-ups. But from just a quick overview glance of this thing, and I told you I wasn't going to go into this. A hymner, you're just basically your bard. But having been the shepherd, animals like you get an animal companion. Shepherd's like a non-violent... a shepherd is like a healer. No, it's like a survivalist. They're like a ranger, but without the damage. You get like protective stuff and food rations. Like, I don't hate this system. It is badly in need of a rewrite. The tradesman. Never underestimate the power of money. Okay. Okay, Mammon. Sure. The healer. yeah, let's put the first thing I thought of when I saw these two. Like, you know the first thing I thought of when I saw this art right here? Ash and Nurse Joy. And now that I've said that, it cannot be unseen. But, like, seriously, I don't hate this system. I feel like if I sat here and edited it and rewrote it... Yeah, so, well, here's the thing, though, man. Here's the thing, because you've got both a survivalist, which is your ranger, like your actual ranger, and then you've got your shepherd, which is like your animal companion, and yeah. So you've got your crusader, which is your paladin, your survivalist, which is like I want to say a hunt, like they're not a ranger, like a combination ranger slash. Okay, yeah, OBS is giving me troubles again, but you got your survivalist, which is your ranger slash rogue. You've got your hymner, which is your the ranger class is split because you can't have a thief. A thief is not a Christian concept. You can't be a good thief, apparently. So you got to be like a survivalist, which like mixes the DPS and the discovery abilities of the thief with the tracking and kind of shit for the ranger. And then you got your shepherd, which kind of takes the animal companions and the survival skills from the ranger and adds like some defensive bonuses. And then you got your tradesman, which is really weird and stands out. Like the tradesman, the evil campaign, please. Using Chris... Hold on. Don't make me laugh. Yeah, an evil campaign using Christian Quest. I said I wasn't going to cover this in detail. Animals apparently play a large part. Man, I don't hate this system. I mean, it's really weird, but it looks like doable, which is a hell of a lot more than I can say about a lot of custom systems. It's not D20 based. It is not D20 based, and it looks doable, and it's a game for Christian. It's a game written, I'm assuming, by a Christian. I don't know, but it's written to spread the good word, and yet it's a doable system. It just, I mean the writing in here, is really shit, but the system's okay. Oh wow, you can multi-class at 4th level. Well, you don't really multi-class. You like get experience in a 2nd class at 4th level by default. Prayers and hymns. That's as close as you're going to get to spellcasting and blessings. Yeah, that's as close as you're going to get to spellcasting in a Christian RPG. And then this is like DM stuff. But what I don't get here is that slimes, all of a sudden you're talking slimes. So this is like almost like Dragon Quest style stuff. You got like 1, 2, 3, like 6 different types of slimes. And then you go to boars, wolves, red octocroc. All of a sudden it's like Dragon Quest monsters. Twister sisters. These are the stats for both, but you fight 2 or more. These sisters have lost more than their livelihoods. They have lost their hope. Now, not even tearing through towns will set them free. Only by being vanquished once more will they get their rest from their torturous existence. At least their schemes precede their destructive path. Their screams, rather. Yeah, so you can combine, you can combine the survivalist and the shepherd, and you can be a ranger. Or, and you know, I'm just throwing it out there, you can combine the trader and the shepherd and be a rancher and sell beef to people by befriending the animals and then butchering them and then selling the meat. You know, it ain't much, but it's honest work. But yeah, and then it goes into, like, it just it just takes a hard turn and just makes it into a Dragon Quest game. Like, all of these monsters are like kind of Dragon Quest monsters. I'm ashamed to say that I don't hate it. Like, I don't even hate the art. If this was like a little cleared up, like, I like the lo-fi stuff. If they just like taken a moment to strengthen the outlines and such and make it less sketchy and more like hard cartoony, this art would actually be pretty neat. I don't hate it. I do hate the cover art, though. Dude, do something about... Who wrote this? Christian Quest by... Christian Crest. From Do Your Best. From Do Your Best. What else do they have? They have... Christian Quest solo role-playing rules. Christian Quest Monsters of Metal and Steam. So it's like steampunk monsters for Christian Quest. And then the final thing that they have, the final product that Do Your Best has on DriveThruRPG is Killer Summer Camp Survival, where you pit campers versus killers in the wilderness. I'll let that sink in for a second. That having been said, look, I gave it a lot of shit, but like, if they cleaned, like, they edited and cleaned up the rules in this, yeah, see, that's exactly what ran through my mind when I looked up their product catalog. It's all one person. It's Diego Zuniga. Like, I don't hate this. Like honestly, like, and I'm putting this out there because sometimes the authors and the developers will come across these streams. That's why I always try to be constructive on stuff. Like, sometimes the authors will come across these streams later on. Like, I don't hate Christian Quest. I think it needs some editing and cleanup. I actually like the art style, but I feel like if it was a little bit cleaner, like a little bit cleaned up, like we would just do like a proper matte finish or something on them and cleaned them up, they would be absolutely excellent. And then replace this cover art, it would be like 100% better. Be 100% better. Yeah, friends of the camp. Yeah, there's been a lot, and I mean a whole lot of camper-based horror games lately, because some group did like a game design jam on like horror at camp, so they produced a lot of them. Anyway, I gotta go. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. Links are in the chat, and I'm gonna after this processes and goes live, probably tomorrow sometime, I'll put the links in like the description or something, or probably like in a post or something. I don't know. I didn't cover all of them because I knew I was running out of time tonight, so there'll probably be some I need to weed out there. I appreciate the watch. I will try to get more Let's Play stuff up soon, and I will try to do more tabletop stuff. I know I've slacked off on it. My schedule in the summer was just terrible, but it always is. I've got 2 more reviews queued up to do, but one of them has to wait until the product's actually released. And they aren't major products, they're like minor products. And then I want, as I said earlier in the stream, I may try to get like a Tabletops and Taverns season together for writing a like an OSR adventure or something. I've been talking about it for a long time. I may just sit down and start recording it and see what happens, because I haven't been able to do a script for it properly. Like every time I do a script for it, I look at it and I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense, and then I just scrap it. So I may just like sit down in front of a computer and then just edit together like whatever hours it takes me to do. But aside from that, I may do some more RPG story time too. That's like super low effort stuff, but I get a feeling people like it. All right, you take care, man. You take care out there, man. I appreciate the views. This has been the RPG Crawler. Until next time, take care and goodbye.